Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Speak English through Real Talk. Today, we use a real story, a true story, to practice your English. The kind of English that tells you something real, something that stays with you. And today, that story is about a man that almost every person on this planet knows, or thinks they know. Imagine a small boy. He is sitting in a classroom. The teacher is talking. The other children are listening. But this boy, he is not listening. He is staring out the window. He is thinking about something else, something far away, something the teacher cannot teach him. His mother gets a letter from the school. The letter says her son is slow. The letter says he may never learn properly. The letter says there is something wrong with him. The mother reads the letter. She is quiet for a moment. Then she looks at her son, and she says, "Do not worry. You are not slow. You are different." That boy will grow up to change the way all humans understand the universe. But here is the question. How much of what you know about him is true? And how much is a story, a myth, that people simply repeat? Who is this man? And what is the truth behind the legend? Stay with me. His name was Albert Einstein. He was born on March 14, 1879, in the city of Ulm, in Germany. His family was Jewish. His father, Hermann, sold electrical equipment. His mother, Pauline, loved music, especially the piano. Albert was their first child, and from the very beginning, he was different. He did not speak until he was almost 3 years old. 3 years old. Most children start saying words at 1. His parents were worried. His family was worried. Some people thought something was wrong with him. But when Albert finally began to speak, he did not say single words. He said full sentences, quietly, carefully, as if he had been thinking about each word for a long time before saying it. This was Albert, slow on the outside, fast on the inside. He loved music, like his mother. He started learning the violin at 6 years old. He played it his whole life. Music was not just a hobby for Albert. It was a way of thinking. Later in life, he said, "If I was not a physicist, I would probably be a musician." At school, Albert was not a bad student. This is one of the big myths. People say Einstein failed mathematics. They say he was a terrible student. This is not true. In Switzerland, where he later went to school, he got very high marks in mathematics and physics. The confusion comes from a different grading system. In Germany, a 1 is the best mark. In Switzerland, a 6 is the best. People saw his old grades, saw the number 1, and thought he had failed. He had not. But there was something about school that Albert truly hated. He hated being told what to think. He hated memorizing facts without understanding them. He wanted to ask questions, big questions, why questions. And the biggest question came to him when he was just 12 years old. It was a quiet afternoon in Munich, Germany, in 1891. Albert was sick in bed. His father came to visit him, and his father brought a gift, a small pocket compass. Albert held the compass in his hands. He moved it. He turned it. No matter which way he turned it, the needle always pointed north. He stared at it for a long time, a very long time. Something was moving that needle, something he could not see, something invisible was reaching through empty space and pulling that small piece of metal. What was it? How was it possible? Albert Einstein was 12 years old, and he was already asking a question that would take him the rest of his life to answer. Behind things, he later wrote, there must be something deeply hidden. This moment, a sick boy, a compass, an invisible force, this was the beginning of everything. It was the spring of 1895 in Zurich, Switzerland. Albert was 16 years old. He had left Germany. He did not like the strict military education there. He wanted to study at the famous Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, called the ETH. He took the entrance exam. He failed, not in mathematics or physics. Those were perfect. He failed in French and botany, languages and plants. He simply had not studied them enough. Most boys would have felt shame. Albert did not. He spent one more year studying, and then he passed. He entered the ETH at 17. But even there, he did not fit in perfectly. He skipped many lectures. He read books on his own instead. His professors were frustrated with him. One professor called him a lazy dog. Another said he would never get a good job after graduation. When Albert finished his degree in 1900, he looked for a job at the university. He wrote letters. He applied everywhere. Nobody wanted him. For 2 years, he was unemployed. He lived with very little money. He borrowed from friends. He worried about the future. But he never stopped thinking. Let's stop here for a moment. I want to teach you a word. The word is perseverance. Perseverance. Say it with me. Perseverance. Perseverance means you keep going, even when things are hard, even when you fail, even when nobody believes in you. Albert Einstein had perseverance. He lost his job. He had no money, but he kept going. And you have it too. Every day you study English. That is perseverance. It was 1902 in Bern, Switzerland. Albert was 23 years old. He had finally found a job, not as a scientist, not as a professor, but as a patent clerk. A patent clerk is someone who reads technical inventions that people submit to the government to protect their ideas. It was a small office, a simple desk, a quiet life. But something incredible happened in that quiet office. While reading inventions during the day, Albert was doing physics in his mind. He was asking his own questions. He was writing his own ideas in small notebooks. And then, in 1905, everything exploded. In one single year, 1 year, Albert Einstein published 4 scientific papers. 4 papers that each changed physics forever. One paper explained how light works. It showed that light travels in small packets of energy, later called photons. This helped create modern technology, like solar panels and digital cameras. Another paper proved that atoms are real. At that time, many scientists were not sure if atoms truly existed. Einstein gave them the mathematical proof. A third paper introduced something called special relativity. It showed that time is not fixed. Time moves differently depending on how fast you are moving. This sounds impossible, but it is true. And today, the GPS on your phone only works because engineers understand Einstein's ideas about time. And the fourth paper, the most famous, contained the most famous equation in history. E equals m squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. 4 letters, 1 number. A discovery so powerful, it is still shaping our world today. He was 26 years old. He was a clerk in a small office, and he had just rewritten the rules of the universe. By 1921, Albert Einstein was the most famous scientist in the world. He had won the Nobel Prize in physics. Not for relativity, that was too controversial, too new. He won it for his explanation of the photoelectric effect, the paper about light. But everyone knew the bigger prize was the man himself. He traveled the world. He met kings and queens. Crowds of thousands came to see him. People recognized his face, his big white hair, his gentle eyes, his old sweater, and they cheered for him like he was a rock star. But fame is a complicated thing, and the world was becoming a darker place. In Germany, a new political movement was rising. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party were gaining power. They were spreading a message of hate, and part of that hate was directed at Jewish people. People like Albert Einstein. Nazi scientists published a book called 100 Authors Against Einstein. 100 people trying to say his science was wrong simply because of who he was. Albert Einstein's response? Quiet, calm. He said, "If I were wrong, one author would have been enough." But he knew the danger was real. In 1933, when Hitler became Chancellor of Germany, Einstein was in the United States. He never went back. Germany took his house. They took his bank account. They put his name on a list of enemies. He had lost his country, but he had kept his life. Another important word for you: resilience. Resilience. Say it slowly. Resilience. Resilience means the ability to recover, to get back up after something very difficult happens. Einstein lost his home, his country, his safety, but he did not give up. He showed resilience. When you make a mistake in English and you keep going, that is resilience too. Albert Einstein spent the rest of his life in Princeton, New Jersey, in the United States. He worked at the Institute for Advanced Study, a place where brilliant people could think freely, without teaching, without deadlines. He kept working. He kept asking questions. He was searching for something he called a unified field theory, a single equation that could explain all the forces of the universe. Gravity, electricity, everything, together. One beautiful formula. He never found it. This was the great sadness of his later years. He had broken open the universe at 26, but the final door, the one he searched for until his last breath, never opened. There is also a shadow over his legacy. In 1939, Einstein signed a letter to President Roosevelt. The letter warned that Germany might be building a nuclear weapon. It encouraged the United States to build one first. That letter helped start what became the Manhattan Project, the program that built the atomic bomb. When the bombs were dropped on Japan in 1945 and hundreds of thousands of people died, Einstein was devastated. He had not worked on the bomb, but his letter had helped open the door. "I made one great mistake in my life," he later said. He became a strong voice for peace. For the rest of his life, he spoke against nuclear weapons. He signed letters with other great scientists, calling on world leaders to choose peace. Albert Einstein died on April 18, 1955. He was 76 years old. He had asked that his body be cremated and his ashes scattered secretly so that no one could build a monument to him. He did not want a shrine. He wanted people to think. So what is the truth? And what is the myth? The myth is the image, the wild white hair, the genius who came from nowhere, the man who was too smart for school, who failed everything, and then became the greatest mind in history. That story is simple. It is comfortable. It is mostly not true. The truth is more interesting. Albert Einstein was a child who asked questions. He was a young man who was rejected by universities, by employers, by colleagues. He sat in a small office for years, doing his greatest work in secret, unknown, unrecognized. He was not a perfect man. He made mistakes in his personal life. He made political mistakes. He carried regrets. But he never stopped asking, never stopped wondering, never let the world tell him what was and was not possible. And here you are, my friend. You are listening to this story in English. Maybe English is not your first language. Maybe sometimes the words are difficult. Maybe sometimes you feel slow, like that little boy staring out the classroom window, while everyone else seems to understand perfectly. But that little boy changed the universe. You are here. You are asking questions. You are learning. Every word you understand today is a small discovery. Every sentence is a step forward. And sometimes, the people who seem the slowest on the outside are moving the fastest on the inside. Do not give up. Now, your challenge. Leave a comment below using one of today's words. Write a sentence with perseverance or resilience. For example, I show perseverance every time I study English. Your sentence, your words. I want to read every single one. If this story moved you, please share it with a friend who is also learning English. And come back, because next time we have another real story waiting for you. Until next time, my friends, take care of yourselves and never stop learning.